I've been meaning to film this video for so long. I don't know why I have not been able to just sit down in front of my camera. I do know why. I've been very busy. I'm actually filming from Switzerland, so travel and summer started and etc. So I'm sorry for not posting for so long. A few weeks back, there was a situation where my cameras were in my car. My windows were open, which I know sounds absolutely crazy, but I was in a safe place. Like, my cameras weren't gonna get stolen. And it started downpouring, and I completely forgot that my cameras, or that my windows were open. And so someone comes down and they're like, "Tessa, you know your windows are wide open and it's raining." I have never run to my car so fast. I was so scared that my cameras were gonna be wet. Thankfully, they weren't. They were all dry. I got very lucky. But that happening made me ask myself the question, if this camera were to be broken, stolen, whatever, the camera gods decide that this camera is no longer for me, would I rebuy it? And very quickly, I realized that the answer was no, I would not rebuy this camera. What I say in this video in no way takes away from my other video. Everything I said in that video, I still agree with. I still think this is a perfect camera. I love this camera. It's all reliable. But I think as a content creator, I'm beginning to outgrow it. Or like in the next few months, I probably will end up outgrowing it. So all I'm saying is that these are my own personal reasons. If you're a beginner photographer or just like, I don't know, any other type of photographer who just wants a camera, I think this is a great camera. But for content creation, especially like vlogging and things like that, there's things that I would change about this camera. And so those are the things that I'm going to talk about. So one of the first reasons why I would not rebuy the Canon G7X Mark II, it's such a mouthful. That's the first reason. No. The first reason is because it does not have interchangeable lenses. As I get more into videography and even digital shooting, like even digital photography, having just one single lens is very limiting. I find myself wanting to experiment with focal lengths and with like just different types of creative shots, and having this one lens without being able to change it feels a little bit restrictive at this point. I feel like when most videographers look for cameras, they would not go with the one that did not have interchangeable lenses. Lenses are so important creativity wise for me. I like the challenge of using like one single lens and, you know, making the most out of this camera. But in general, I think that I would be happier with a lot of my shots and have a better time shooting if I were to have the option to change my lenses. And also, this is something that I plan on doing as a career, like media work. So commercial work also probably shouldn't be done with a camera that only has one lens or doesn't have interchangeable lenses, just because you don't have the flexibility. It's not very professional. And like I said, it's just very limiting. So that's the first reason why I would not buy this camera again as a content creator going into more videography type spaces. My next reason why I would not buy this camera again is one that you can actually hear. I don't like the fact that this camera does not have an input for an external mic. Not that the internal mic on this camera isn't good. It's a great microphone, you know, it does the job. But I would like to up my production value just a little bit, and I feel like one of the main ways that I can do that, at least right now, starting out, is to improve my audio. Are there ways to sync audio? Could I have my phone and just like talk like this? Yes, I could. I could sync it. It probably would be very easy, but I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. I want to be able to speak into my camera, have an external mic hooked up and leave it at that, so that when I put it into, I was gonna say Lightroom, when I put it into Final Cut Pro, I don't have to worry about a single thing. It's all good audio wise. I just don't like, I think it's silly that this camera doesn't have an external mic input. And I think the Mark III does, which is great, but I would never upgrade from this camera to the Mark III. So I will not be able to experience the G7X Mark III with the external mic option. Syncing audio at this point is just an extra step. I don't want to do it because I'm lazy, and I don't have to do it if I can just have a camera that can just use other mics. Having an external mic also gives me more like creative flexibility when it comes to shooting, especially outdoors. There's so many cute little mics, like the little mics that go on your shirt. There's Bluetooth mics, there's mics that hook up to your phone and can be, there's just so many options when it comes to improving your audio, and this camera allows me to do none of them. So I feel like that's the main way that I've outgrown this camera, is just the simple fact that every time I hear my audio, I'm like, it's good, but it could be so much better. And mics aren't even that expensive, honestly. But I can't, because it's not an option. And I'm not syncing. I don't want to do that. So my next reason why I would not rebuy this camera is one that I've mentioned before, but that is the fact that I want to start being able to do paid or commercial work with my cameras. I currently shoot all paid work on my Nikon D7100, and it's a great camera. I love it, and for at home, it's fine, it's perfect. But as a travel creator, or someone who's trying to become a travel creator and hopefully do paid work abroad and just, you know, wherever I am, I want to consolidate gear. I don't want to be adding more gear. And that includes having one camera versus multiple cameras. Right now, if I wanted to do paid work, over here in Switzerland especially, or just like anytime I'm on a plane, I hate like flying with cameras. I would have to, number one, have this camera. I'm shooting on my Canon, have my Nikon with me, and then I always have my 2 film cameras. Already that's 4 cameras. And I could bring a 5th. I had to leave a 5th home because I was like, you can't bring every single camera you own on every trip. The point being that if I can have a camera that can be both for commercial work and for my content creation, I would be so happy. It'd be so nice. I would be having to pack a few extra lenses, but personally, I'm okay with that. I would rather pack a camera body and 2 to 3 lenses rather than this camera, a camera body. This camera is just, it adds an extra, it's an extra thing to bring. There are so many cameras right now that do video and photography so well. This camera is one of them in some ways, but in terms of paid professional work, it just does not serve my needs in the way that I would like it to. If I were going to buy a new camera, which hopefully one day I will be, but whenever I do buy my new camera, it will shoot in 4K. It has to shoot in 4K. Non-negotiable. There's nothing more to say about that. I want the quality. I love watching videos in 4K. I think they're so clean looking. I wouldn't do professional work with a camera that doesn't shoot in 4K. I just wouldn't. I've been looking around a little bit, and honestly, finding a video that shoots in 4K isn't even asking for that much price-wise. You can find them for, you know, $1,000, $1,500. So it just doesn't make sense for me to buy another camera that doesn't have that ability and can't be used professionally, commercially, whatever. And my last reason why I would not rebuy this camera is because I need a camera with better weather sealing. My cameras come everywhere with me. They come up the mountain, by the river, in the ocean sometimes. My cameras go through a lot, and this camera has been truly a trooper. It has gone everywhere. It hasn't taken many falls. I will say that. I've been really good over the years about not dropping it, but it's exposed to elements, definitely. I would like my next camera to be better protected from the elements, because if there is a downfall to this camera, it will be water, sand, something of that sort, because I am kind of risky when it comes to taking this camera in places. There's already like a lot of dust inside. I film at the barn all the time. There's dust everywhere. It's so bad, and it's getting all into my camera. I've never tried to clean it. I looked up how to clean it, and then I just kind of gave up on that. But I need a camera that can handle wind, dust, moisture, snow, humidity, rain. And obviously I'm not leaving my camera out in the elements and just being like, ah, it's all right. But I just know that this camera is not made for that. There's so many people online who say that this camera is super fragile, which I personally don't find it to be fragile at all. I think, like I said, it's been pretty sturdy. It's stuck around through mountains. It's been 10,000 feet up and has worked. Like, it did die up there on that mountain, but for a long time, it still worked. So this camera really does hang in there, but I know at some point it won't anymore, and that's gonna be a sad day, but that's a really important reason to me as a travel creator and someone who likes to bring her camera in places she probably shouldn't. I need a camera that can handle that, and I don't have to worry about it breaking. So those are my reasons as to why I would not rebuy the Canon G7X Mark II. As long as this camera is working, I think it's a great backup camera. I still plan on bringing it everywhere with me. Even, I know I said like I'm trying to consolidate gear, but the reality is that I love gear. And also I think it is important to have a backup camera because you never know. So I think this camera is great for that. And this camera is like my little heart camera. I upgraded from the Sony a6000 after realizing that I needed a camera that had like the little screen that could flip up. So this camera was technically an upgrade from my last camera that I sort of outgrew, if you will. I think all videographers, photographers, anyone who uses a piece of technology at all, at some point you do outgrow it. It's just the simple fact. Your needs change, the type of work that you do changes. It's a shame that it's such an expensive endeavor to, you know, try out cameras and try to figure out like which camera's perfect for you. There's a few cameras that I am interested in. There's a lot of Fuji. There's a few Fuji cameras that I really, really like, and every time I see like a really clean video on YouTube, I try to see if they have the camera in the description, and it's always a Fuji. It's a Fuji or a Sony, and so my next camera will probably be one of those. I'm going to make that decision based on which lenses I want to have, because you know what they say, you date your camera body, but you marry your lenses. So whichever ecosystem I go with, I have to make sure that I'm willing to stick with it for at least 5 to 7 years, hopefully. Me and my Canon will trek on from here on out until the very end. And we'll go until she decides that she's tired of my shit. Hopefully not for a few months, at least not on this trip. After this trip, fine. Not on this trip. I was not planning on buying a new camera on this trip. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for like 13K and 200 subscribers. That is crazy to think about, and it makes me so happy to think about there's so many people who enjoyed that Canon video. I really did not expect it to do that well. And the comments are so sweet, so nice. I love talking with all like the photographers about like the nerdy stuff and even the beginners. I am just so happy. So thank you for 200 of you, and thank you for all the love on my other video. But until my next, thank you for watching, and have a great morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever, from wherever you are.